Thank you very much. Thank you very much for inviting me. I thought that maybe saying a few words on what IMI is. It's a collaboration between the European Commission and the organization called FPR, which is the European Federation of Pharmaceutical Companies. However, they are very well represented worldwide, so in this project we are having a lot of good people also from the United States. A couple of them are here, that's Brett Hauber and John Bridge, who are distinguished and very valued members of our scientific advisory board. And this is about the preferred project as well. So this can be done in different ways. I think Brett Hauber coined this. When we are looking for preferences, it depends on at what level what we are actually looking for. We want to know what matters to patients. That is one set of issues. How much does it matter and what matters most? And if you look into this, you see that in order to respond to this, some of these questions, they arise when you try to identify unmet medical needs. Some of them arise when you are more in of a trade-off situation where you would like to balance an expected effect or benefit with risk of adverse reactions. And different populations, subpopulations of patients respond differently and value differently on this. So there are different methods to be chosen depending on what you are looking for. So what we are doing in the PREFER project, which is then a collaboration between academia and industry with 33 partners, we have been running for 1.5 years and will run 3.5 years more, is to identify and assess methods for elicitation of health-related preferences, and then take them on over to clinical case studies in order to evaluate them. So we are not doing preference research, but we are evaluating preference methodologies. And on the basis of that, the idea is then to develop recommendations for regulatory authorities on how and when, in what context and what methods to use to integrate health preference research in the drug cycle process, the whole drug cycle process. So it's a sort of a bottom-up and top-down approach. Bottom-up in the sense that this needs to be science-based. Top-down in the sense that this needs to be relevant to the questions that regulators and HTA bodies are asking. So a short presentation of what we have been doing so far. We have been doing a lot of literature reviews on preference research, of course. We have done 143 semi-structured interviews and focus groups on top of that with stakeholders. And stakeholders here are industry, regulators, patients, and HTA representatives of different countries. So we want to know what concerns they have, and we need to know that in order to formulate and select the right research methodology and research questions to bring into assessment in the clinical case studies. Some of the things that we have seen, there's a lot of data that is now coming out of this, is that there's definitely a lack of consensus on the definition and the role of patient preferences. What role should it play and how should we elicit them? There's a lot of discrepancies on the study design and how you should conduct them. What we find in the focus groups and in these interviews with the patients is that they are very much concerned that if they shall have a say and if their views are going to be used for regulatory decision making, they need to be well informed. And they also point out that the heterogeneity need to be acknowledged. You need to have a possibility to address that issue in the scientific methods that you use. So far we have been, and we are relying not only on our internal experts, we have all the societies, JAPOR, ISPOR, the Society for Medical Decision Making, where we are participating. We have external experts like Brett and John and many others. So what we have together identified are 32 preference exploration and elicitation methods. And we make this distinction because the first one is about the first one or maybe two set of questions to identify what is at stake, what is the value here in the bottom, what matters to patients. So you could call them qualitative studies. But the elicitation methods is really preferences about the pros and the cons, the benefits and the risk with a specific intervention regarding a medical product or a medical device. So we have identified them, and we are now out for assessing not all of them, but some of them. So let me continue. So this is exampled. This is very rich material because we have all these reports coming out, and I cannot give you a lot of detailed data because this is just in the publication process. So this is just a snapshot. But what you have here, is there a pointer here? Yeah. So what you have here is the first row of the different stakeholders, industry, regulators, HTA, and patients. And these are examples of some of the concerns that they have when we ask them about taking health preferences into regard in the drug development process. So the industry is then concerned about the patient sample, one of the research questions, and we have identified in this process 150 different research questions related to the use of health preference elicitation methods in different clinical contexts. So what one would like to know is to what degree does repeat application of a method on different samples from the same patient population give similar results? We don't know that yet. We're not sure. That has to be investigated. Regulators, one of the issues that they are concerned with is the generalizability of the result. If we come up with a good preference study for a specific subpopulation, how could you generalize that to other parts of that population or to other disease areas? That's one issue. HTA, one of the concerns was the study design. What is the possibility that or the risk that you actually influence patient preferences and shift them by just doing research? So one research question coming out of that, to what degree do small changes in the number, type, and definitions of attributes impact results for a given method? And it's extremely important here to be very careful and, of course, very transparent, because if we're going to rely on these studies, we need to know what attributes did you select and which ones did you not select, and why was that? Patients have many concerns. One of the concerns that came up all the time was the lack of patient knowledge and education. And that is part of what we have been trying to address from the beginning. And that is that what I said in one of my first slides is that patients want to be well informed. If I give you the opportunity to affect the regulatory decisions on certain drugs or the use of certain drugs in whatever stage of the life cycle, I suspect that you would like to be well informed. I could ask you about your preferences at one stage, and I will give a reply on that. And then at a later stage, if I inform you, I might eventually get another response, because now we are well informed. And we are a bunch of philosophers and ethics in this project, and from an ethical point of view, this is of course extremely important, that there's a possibility for them to be well informed. There is, from a methodological and an ethical point of view, important to be very careful here. If you think about health-related preferences as combination of beliefs about disease, a certain drug, the effects of a certain drug, the risk of adverse reaction, the nature of adverse reactions, and so forth. There's a lot of those beliefs. These may be ill or could be better informed, and that is then important. But part of health preference is also values that patients have, and values that should be respected. So we should not try to force them into thinking or valuing things that's not really what they would like. We might give them an opportunity to reflect on their values, say, for example, on a certain process of administration of a drug or a certain set of risk of adverse reactions. So we faced this from the beginning, and what we have brought in, and we will also do, is to use different kinds of interactive information packages when you include and inform patients in the context of health preference research. And one of these is what we call a serious game. And the idea is to see if that can affect the understandability. We have a group of psychologists in Milano working also with us, and they have identified a large set of psychological, already available instruments in the literature that one could use. Some of these are not very well founded on scientific evidence yet, and that is a problem for us and for the whole scientific community. We would like to look into risk proneness as such an instrument. It's available, but it's not really validated and cannot be used at this stage. The two only instruments that really are good, that we can use, and that are also efficient and practical to use in the context of a health preference study, in terms to logistics and cost, is health literacy and numeracy. So they could, and they should be used. So this is a set of questions, and some of the methodological research questions that were identified, they have already been sort of addressed and have quite a good reply in the psychometric literature of different kinds of psychological or similar instruments.
So Matt's about 1 more minute?
Yeah, sorry?
Your time's about up.
My time is up. Is that why it's blinking? So what we are now doing is that we are going into case studies in rheumatoid arthritis, in neuromuscular disorders, and lung cancer. And therefore, I think I skipped my last slide.
Please make your point, right? Because okay. I'm sure that this is
one example of what we are doing, running such a study now. And the question is, what do rheumatoid arthritis patients prefer when stepping up treatment with yet another biologic or what's called JAK inhibitors? We will also do it in a 2-arm protocol, so that one set of patients will have a very interactive information in terms of serious game and see if that affects preferences or not. And these are the attributes. They are not very strange. We work together already from the part with patient partners. These are, of course, not representative of the patient populations, but they are experts in the disease and help us setting up the project. That's it. Thank you.
Well done, Matt. Thank you. Reactions, Arthur.
Yeah, thank you.
Anyone else?
Are there, I don't know all that much about preferences. Could you tell me, have preferences been validated in the following way? If a person had a preference for A and another person's for B, but you randomize people into whether they got A or B, would the person whose preference was gotten in the study randomly, would they be happier than the person whose preference was not achieved?
I think that can be done, but I think Brett will address that issue, and maybe John Bridge also can do that because they are working with it. So, and that is part of the problem, to validate this for different populations, different subpopulations, and that is what we need to do.
And I know I really appreciated your comments. John, you want to follow up? Microphone on and identify yourself, please.
John Bridges. Actually, I'm not at Johns Hopkins anymore. I forgot. you say something for 12 years. I know. No. So new edit. I'm at Ohio State University. It's new for me, but I think it offers an important thing. Matt is talking about preferences in a meta-concept where experiments that are very complex are looking at a range of dimensions of preferences. The person at the front is talking about choice, which is treatment A versus treatment B. And these are two different things, and it's taken me a very long time to understand that these are two different points of view. We can talk about preferences, we can talk about choices, but let's not mix the two together.
All right, excellent feedback and learning for me. Thank you very much. Any other comments for Matt of what this raises for you? So thank you for the inspiring talk. You did exactly what we needed. Thank you.